Hi everyone, thanks for waiting patiently for this video. I've been having some major technical difficulties which involved my laptop and a full pint glass of water. You can see where that is headed, so I'm still figuring out. I don't know if I'm going to be getting it fixed. It's in the repair shop right now. I don't know if it's salvageable or if I'm just going to have to order a new laptop. My old computer is luckily still functional. I'm working on that for now. I'm trying to log back into all my email accounts and all of that jazz, and I'm going to be able to make shorter, simpler videos between now and then. So today seemed like the perfect day to talk again about my meditation practice, because as of 2 or 3 days ago I finally hit a 365-day streak of meditation. If you've been following me throughout this journey in the last 2 years, you'll know that throughout all of 2019 and 2020 I was aiming to have a full calendar year of meditation, and I slipped up a few times along the road. I generally speaking did succeed though, and I considered those years to be a massive success. It meant that I was arriving at the altar usually, or even if sometimes I did it sitting on a couch, and even a few times lying in bed, but I never gave myself permission to not meditate. Basically, no matter how sick, no matter how tired, I would say to myself, you can do 5 minutes. So I think that what the 365-day streak has really demonstrated more than anything is that this habit has really taken hold. It's essentially unheard of for me to now forget to meditate throughout the day. I will still sometimes reach the evening before I go to bed and think, oh, okay, I need to meditate. There were a few times that it happened after midnight, so the app that I use thinks that I missed a day, but I did actually get in the 5 minutes of meditation before I went to bed. I think the 365-day streak really just shows that, like I say, that this has become ingrained in me, and that is what I was aiming for in the first place. I wasn't undertaking this as a means to tick a box and be able to say on YouTube, oh, I meditated for 365 days, although of course that's what I'm doing here today. The point was supposed to be to get me into the habit and routine of doing this on a regular basis, making it a no-brainer, making it something that I didn't have to think about or question whether I should do or shouldn't do. Was I going to be bothered to do it on this particular day? And I was hoping that all of this would set me up to not only be a more centered and mindful and have more clarity of thought and so on. I also was hoping that it would lead me to having a deeper meditation practice over time. And I knew that just by saying I'm going to meditate every single day this year, and then that turned into I'm going to meditate every single day, hopefully for the rest of my life, or at least for as many years as that is feasible for me in my life. I knew that making that commitment wasn't going to necessarily mean that I would become a master meditator overnight or even within the calendar year. I knew that I might not necessarily be meditating for more than 20 minutes a day, that it might turn out to be much less. And I wanted to be okay with that. I wanted to not set up any major expectations for myself to have achieved some kind of radical transformation of my mind or some great enlightenment or something like that after that span of time. My aim was always just to make this a thing that is something I do every single day. But then with the idea that once I had that base laid down, once I had that foundation, once I had the time or the inclination to spend weeks or months really focusing on meditation, I would have laid that groundwork, and it would be easier for me to step up my game with meditation, to achieve new depths of meditation, new experiences, and so on. The 2 years that I spent doing this meditation every single day so far have turned out to be pretty chaotic. 2019 saw me leaving Edinburgh and moving back to Ireland, and I was working on my PhD, and my spiritual practice was still floundering a little. It was starting to come back into itself a bit, but I still didn't have so much time and energy to be focusing on it. So meditation wasn't something that I spent huge amounts of time in that year really doubling down on. I had months here and there where I would be up to about 20-30 minutes a day, and I was happy with that. And I was finding that once I got into those phases of meditating more, that I was able to find that stillness that I was hoping for, and it was successful in that way. And then of course we had 2020. 2020 I was thinking to myself, great, I've already spent a year meditating every single day. Mostly it was 5 or 10 minutes, but now in 2020 I'm going to hope to step up my game a bit. And I did step up my game for a while with meditation in terms of the length of my meditations during April, May and June. But it was a very different kind of meditation experience. I made a whole video many months ago when I came back to the channel in late summer, early autumn kind of time. And I made a whole video about my experience with my mental health decline during the first wave of the pandemic. And meditation became a lifeline for me, but it wasn't meditation on the breath. I wasn't seated usually when I did this meditation. No, I was always lying down. The entire aim of these always guided meditations was to calm myself and get control over my anxiety. So that was the first half of the year of my meditation practice. The second half of the year reverted to my usual 5-10 minutes. And then coming into 2021, I didn't actually sit down at any point before this year and think through carefully what exactly I was hoping for the year, what my goals were and so on. Mostly because I didn't want to set myself up for failure. So much is out of our control right now, and I didn't want to focus too much on achievements or set myself up with any expectations that I might not be able to meet as the year went on. But I found myself at the beginning of the year feeling very called to waking up early, as I mentioned in my last video, as a means to incorporating more useful, valuable practices into my morning routine. I was in a habit of getting up and doing exercise first thing, but I wanted to make more time for yoga and meditation and other spiritual practices and so on in the morning by getting up significantly earlier. And so this year, I'm not making this into a commitment for myself. I'm not going to beat myself up at all if I fall out of this habit again in a few months' time. But I am setting an intention with myself that I want to be aiming to be doing what I am right now in my daily routine. I want to be aiming to do a minimum of 20 minutes of meditation per day, preferably up to an hour of 2 or 3 sessions throughout the day. And I really want some of those meditation sessions to be really focused on altar work, on altar time, on devotional practices, and to incorporate the two into one another. When I'm doing that much meditation in the day, I feel as though I have time to do other things other than simple meditation on the breath. Meditation on the breath has been my bread and butter when it comes to meditation for a long time, and I don't even focus too much on the breath. I try to focus more on silence, because as an anxious person, focusing on the breath can sometimes be anxiety inducing, and if I'm finding that that's happening, then I will try to just lean into the silence that I can find around me, the silence between any of the noises that are happening in my environment. And that is my bread and butter. That is what I feel like I want to have an absolute minimum of 5 minutes in my day of. But if I'm doing more than 10, 15, 20 minutes of meditation a day, I can certainly start to incorporate other practices, other visualization practices, work with the prayer beads and so on. And that is something that I have started doing. I've started using my prayer beads again. I always feel when I make these videos about meditation that I want to be giving you something concrete about what it has done for me and why it's worth doing this at all. I feel like I should have data or at least something concrete for me to be able to bring to you. And unfortunately, that's really not the case. I don't think that I can definitively look at my life before 2019 or before the last 365 days. I don't think I can look at my life and say, oh, it was definitely worse, or my mental health was worse, or that I wasn't as happy and so on. I've said before on the channel, I think when I talked about this journey of meditating every day, that it was a little bit disappointing in the beginning, that I didn't feel that I was getting any more gains from it than I had been in the past, meditating maybe 2-3 times a week. But I can tell through looking back on what my life felt like and how out of control my life felt back in 2018, 2017, that doing this over time, chipping away at it over time, making it a priority in my life, making sure that it actually happens even for a very brief portion of time, that over time, gradually, it certainly has concurred with me becoming a more stable, more aware and more awake feeling kind of person. I have definitely been improving in leaps and bounds over the years in terms of, I think not even so much my day-to-day happiness. but also in terms of my clarity on who it is I want to be, on how it is I want to be acting and moving in the world, and what it is I want to do with my life and what my priorities are. I think I still felt very, very muddy and murky and unclear about my life back in the mid 2010s compared with this experience that I'm having now, 2 years after I started meditating every day. And yeah, absolutely, this might just be through getting older, and I know that I've had a huge lease of life since submitting my PhD and moving into this new period of my life. I know that I've been generally feeling much better and feeling more satisfied with how I spend my days. But when I look back over the trajectory of the last few years, I have to say, well, there's at least a strong possibility or even probability that meditating every day has brought me to this place, that it has really woken me up to myself in a way, and has helped me, even though I went through such a bad phase of mental health in the beginning of the pandemic, I at least was aware and became aware very early on of just how out of control things were getting. And I definitely feel like I've gotten to a point of noticing when I start to slide into a period of poor mental health or lack of energy or bad habits, bad routine. And that is really valuable. That is something that I suspect would be less so if I wasn't meditating every day. And when I look back at how I used those guided meditations back last year when I was going through that difficult period, I'm realizing as well that those might not have been as effective if I wasn't in that habit of meditating every day, if I wasn't in that habit of coming to that kind of space. Maybe it would have been more difficult for me to find help through those guided meditations. I wasn't coming to them cold, I was coming to them as someone who already had built up that habit. But to be honest, I feel as though the greatest contribution that this meditation practice, this continuous meditation practice has made to my life is actually in being a placeholder for my spiritual practice. I think I was going through a period of my life where having a more active daily practice was not possible for me. I was not really sure where I sat spiritually, and I didn't have much emotional energy. I didn't have much mental energy even to be spending outside of my PhD and all of the stuff that was going on in my life. And I always felt as though pure meditation on the breath was a poor replacement for a proper daily practice. So a daily practice that would involve prayer beads or devotions or anything else, using crystals, drawing cards, anything else that I used to do in my daily practice. I always felt it was a poor substitution for those practices that I used to do. But in hindsight, I'm realizing that that was all that I was capable of doing. That was really all I had to give at that time, during that time in my life. And it was an awful lot better than nothing. I went from essentially only sitting at my altar maybe once a week plus the 8 days on the wheel of the year. That was really the only times that I was spending at my altar for a few years. And I moved from that to almost always sitting at the altar every single day. And that was huge. That really did start to get me back into that mindset and to make me start feeling again as though spirituality was is a really valuable part of my life, and that it's worthwhile, that it's worth doing, and that there is meaning to be found in this world. And that was something that had started to really slip for me. So I'm in a good place right now. I'm feeling as though I'm really ready to do something spiritually. I'm really hoping that that turns out to be the case, and I'm feeling determined now to keep this up, and not only to keep doing the bare minimum 5-minute meditations every day, but to keep up a more dedicated meditation practice and to start using those segments of time in my day to, like I say, do other things. Like I have already been using prayer beads in one of those segments every day, and that has already felt amazing. It feels better than a simple meditation on the breath to me. It makes me feel more grounded in my spirituality. It makes me feel more like there's a point to me showing up and doing this, which is amazing. So that's all I have to say on this topic today. I will most certainly be making more videos on the topic again in the future. And if you have anything in particular that you'd like to hear me talk about with regards to meditation or daily practice or anything like that, do let me know in the comments down below. And let me know about your meditation practice as well. I'm very curious how many of you have what you consider to be a dedicated meditation practice. Is it something that's important to you, or is it something that just doesn't work for you at all? It's not necessarily for everyone, especially meditation on the breath. So as usual, thank you for watching. I'll probably be back with another short video next week. We'll see how things go. Yeah, just cross your fingers for my laptop and just think of it and send healing thoughts, please, because it's in a bad way.